Mr. Beat, a YouTube staple of liberal propaganda in high school classrooms across America, says he is against the Electoral College. Today, on behalf of all of the kids who are subjected to watching his videos in class, we will respond. Stay tuned. What's up, guys? Vincedao here. Be sure to like and subscribe. So, Mr. Beat, not to be confused with Mr. Beast, is one of the most popular history YouTubers on the site. In fact, for younger viewers, your teacher may have assigned you Mr. Beat videos in high school history class. Now, unsurprisingly, Mr. Beat is a raging liberal. Well, this weekend, Mr. Beat made a video titled "The Electoral College Still Sucks," which, as you can imagine, is a case against the Electoral College. Today, we will be watching that and responding. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll bring back the nostalgia of my own days in AP US history, so let's do this. I will say before we get started, just so you know, the beginning of the video is going to have a lot of my arguments. The middle is just going to be a lot of him talking with me occasionally interjecting, so that way we can hear him out. And then the end of the video is where I'm going to really go in on his arguments. Also, for the sake of time, I'm only going to go through about half of his video, and if this does well, I'll do a part 2. So if you want to see a part 2, be sure to leave a like and comment. Anyways, enough said, let's get started here.
Regardless, I did want to try to respond to the comments that made the best points. At the same time, I will be responding to this video by a dude named Andrew from a channel called Don't Run, Walk It Out Productions. I mean, walk, run, or hold up.
Okay, so first of all, he takes forever to get started, then he does the sponsorship, so we'll skip ahead like 2 minutes to when his video actually starts, okay?
Dude, you are an idiot. It's called tyranny of the majority. It's simple. I'm sorry if you can't comprehend it.
You really didn't give a good argument against mob rule. Fair enough. I guess I need to expand on the mob rule bit, because I didn't say much about it in the first video. First of all, saying that democracy inevitably leads to mob rule is a slippery slope fallacy.
Okay, so first of all, the slippery slope is not a fallacy. If anything, it might be the single most vindicated and trustworthy social science theory, not just in American history, but world history. In fact, I'd go so far as to argue that the very concept of a slippery slope fallacy is a construct of liberals who have been trying to get people to look away from their very obvious attempts to slowly erode tradition over the last century. The precise reason why liberals claim that the slippery slope is a fallacy is because of the fact that they don't want anyone to put 2 and 2 together regarding the very obvious slippery slope they are rolling down. And this is not just true of America. Virtually every civilization in human history can have its downfall attributed to what started as a slippery slope. Again, not a fallacy, but the single most correct way to interpret human history.
I think majoritarianism, an idea which says that the majority of the population is entitled to a certain degree of primacy in society, is a good thing. And you know what? The majority of folks out there also think majoritarianism is a good thing, so see what I did there? Odds are you think majoritarianism is a good thing too. You tend to make choices based on majorities, don't you? If the majority of people tell you Whataburger is good, and it is, you give it a try. If the majority of people tell you that The Shawshank Redemption is a good movie, and it is, you watch it. Why can't you trust the majority to pick the right political candidate?
So that is absolutely true. People don't really think for themselves. I agree. But if anything, that's a self-defeating argument against democracy itself. It goes to show that the very concept of democracy is a scam because it's simply dictated by whoever controls the institutions and the narratives. It goes to show just how much people can fall for something just because the people around them are doing it, even if it's wrong. That's precisely what forms mobs and mob rule. But regardless, I'm going to get into my central premise here. I actually don't believe in majoritarianism. I have a whole video on this that you can watch, but in short, I don't believe that an idea is virtuous simply because a majority of people decided on it, especially considering the majority of people are dumb and don't have the agency to make sound decisions. Go talk to people on the street if you don't believe me. Hence, I don't care whether or not the majority opinion is represented. I care whether or not the correct opinion is represented. And what I want is to live in a, I don't know, functional, safe society with working infrastructure, clean streets, healthy families, moral values. And to me, it is far more important that these things exist than it is that the majority opinion gets represented in democracy. So to respond to his statement, no, I actually do not trust majorities to choose political candidates, largely because I observe how brainless and sheepishly majorities act and precisely don't want that behavior running my political system. The founders recognized that too. But anyways, let's continue.
Because that candidate sucks, okay? Well, that's just your opinion, man. But you like people to know your opinion, don't you? You like your voice to be heard? That smells like democracy to me.
Who said that I want other people to have the same voice as me? Kidding, of course. It's just jokes. It's all jokes.
Literally every other election in the country is done by a majority vote. Heck, Electoral College defenders are even cool with the majority of electoral votes being counted. So, what about the mob? Well, mobs can be irrational. Mobs can be violent. We saw this on January 6th when a mob tried to overturn a, election. But governments literally can also be violent and irrational. But governments are made up of people.
What kind of argument even is that? Yeah, mobs can be irrational, but also so can, people. Okay, that doesn't address the point, dude. I don't know. Let's continue.
Getting rid of the Electoral College doesn't mean we'd have mob rule or a tyranny of the majority. We'd still live in a constitutional republic, so the law would rule over all else, and representatives would still make major decisions. It's an indirect democracy, so there'd still be safeguards against mobs.
Well, considering you're already trying to get rid of an entire aspect of the Constitution, I don't know if I really trust these people to protect the rest of the safeguards against mobs, but that would be a slippery slope fallacy, am I right? They don't want us to talk about that. That's a slippery slope, even though they want to do that. I don't know.
But maybe you're still worried about minorities not having a voice. Well, majoritarianism doesn't mean the minority has no voice. There are still plenty of safeguards for the minority. Take, the entire U.S. Constitution, which spells out the limited powers of the federal government and even lists out specific individual rights every citizen has. For example, religious minorities in the United States are protected. Ethnic minorities in the United States even often get special treatment.
Whoa. What did he say? Did he just admit that ethnic minorities in America have special privilege? Totally unrelated to the point of this video, I know, but that's very surprising coming from Professor Libtard. I wonder what his fans and community will think of that take. That's interesting.
So yeah, at the federal level, Crowder is right, and I agree that we shouldn't have direct democracy at the federal level. By the way, much of the criticisms of my original video were examples of the straw man fallacy. They were attacking a straw man. I never once called for a direct democracy to replace our constitutional republic. I just think we should vote for president, the same way we vote for literally every other public office in this country.
Not really. We vote for every other office in this country at either the local or state level. All other federal offices, hint, hint, Congress, are elected at a district or statewide level. So I understand what he's trying to say, but it's not really true. I'll elaborate on that a little more in a bit, but let's keep playing.
Speaking of logical fallacies, there were also several faulty appeal to authority fallacy comments.
The problem with utopian theorists is that they expect a perfect world. The founding were far more ahead to their contemporaries, and most of their ideas are still very relevant now and in the future. Yes, there's things to improve on, but what the founding fathers did is just awesome.
It's done its purpose for over 200 years. Don't change it because you're mad you didn't get the result you wanted.
The founders set it up that way for a reason. People that don't like the Electoral College think they are smarter than the founders. I think those very smart people should change in the Senate too. Why should all the states get only 2 senators?
Founding fathers this and founding fathers that. It's a faulty appeal to authority fallacy because people are saying the Electoral College must be good because the founding fathers believed it was good.
Wait a minute, did he just accuse people of using one of the appeal fallacies? In this case, the appeal to authority fallacy? Now, this is another thing I don't always necessarily think is a fallacy, in the sense that the opinions of very wise people who came before us should matter. In that sense, yes, the founders actually were more exceptional and wiser men than a lot of us, and hence sometimes we should be humble enough to consider their wisdom. But since he wants to be so smug about this, Mr. Appeal to Authority, Mr. Logical Fallacy, let's rewind his own video a few minutes, shall we?
I think majoritarianism, an idea which says that the majority of the population is entitled to a certain degree of primacy in society, is a good thing. And you know what? The majority of folks out there also think majoritarianism is a good thing. Odds are you think majoritarianism is a good thing too. Why can't you trust the majority to pick the right political candidate?
Kids, do you know what he just committed? That's the appeal to majority fallacy, which is basically making no argument for something other than saying, well, most people agree with this opinion, therefore it is correct. I'd actually argue this is worse than appealing to authority, because at least an authority figure can have some credentials to claim the founding fathers, I don't know, built a nation, whereas there is nothing inherently correct about being a majority at all. In fact, the entire system of democracy itself is basically built upon the appeal to majority fallacies. Again, I find this conversation to be pseudo-intellectual and obnoxious. Oh, that's a fallacy. But if you want to do that, yeah, dude, I took AP English as well. Got a 5, by the way. I know what the logical fallacies are, just like you. You're not smart because you throw around incredibly familiar vocabulary terms at people. And again, as I said, I think the whole fallacy thing is stupid. I think in a lot of cases, it's a cope to get out of addressing actual arguments. But with that said, you're not even consistent about avoiding the logical fallacies that you claim to be so against. So take that, nerd. Oh, that's ad hominem. Wrong. It's Chad hominem. Get it right.
But the founding fathers didn't have access to the same information we do today. No offense to the founding fathers, but you watching this video right now are likely much more informed than they ever were.
Well, that just harpens back to what I said earlier, which is just this modern arrogance and lack of humility. I actually don't believe I'm as smart or as exceptional as the founders were, nor are you, nor are most of the high school students who are assigned to watch your videos. You seriously believe that Lakeisha, who shows up to first period history class in pajamas and eats hot chip the whole class, is smarter than the founding fathers? Yeah, let's let Lakeisha write the Constitution. She's definitely a lot smarter than James Madison. I'm sure that'll go great. I'm sure there will be a Bill of Rights protecting the right of the people to charge their phone, eat hot chip, smoke their flash drive. Anyways, that's a little bit past the point. What I really want to address is something that's been underlying the whole video, which is the very idea that we should have a national popular vote election. This debate always gets into the semantics, right? Republic, democracy, indirect democracy. I think the easiest way to understand it, though, is that America is a federal republic. It's in the name. We are the United States. And that is why we decide elections for all federal offices as states more so than we do as people. The reason we have the Electoral College is the same reason we don't do at-large national elections for Congress and instead do them in states and in districts, which, by the way, are drawn by the state legislatures. Mr. Beat claims that we don't decide Congress in the same way we decide the president, but in reality, we actually do, in the sense that both the makeup of our Congress and who our president is are a reflection of what the states decide, not what the national popular vote decides, right? Our Congress isn't decided by a popular vote nationally. It's a collection of proportional representation across the states. Same with the president. Why? Again, federal republic. The identity and the power of the individual states is basically unrivaled in the structure of America. All the other countries that we point to and say they don't do an electoral college, sure. Now, they may have provinces or states of their own, but not one of those systems nearly has the degree of states' rights, states' autonomy, and identity that the American states do. I would argue it is because of the fact that we are a super federal republic and not a unitary republic that we shouldn't decide federal elections at large nationally in any capacity. You know, we can talk about all this stuff. Mob rule, tyranny of the majority, right? But honestly, the simplest reason to understand why we have the Electoral College really comes down to the fact that we were founded as a confederacy, or I guess eventually union of states. Don't forget that these were basically totally separate and disconnected colonies before they were the United States. Now, you may argue against that. You may call that outdated, but understand that the debate fundamentally at its core to change the Electoral College has much greater implications when you really think about it for how we structure the entire federal system itself if we are to change the state-controlled election of Congress and the executive. And I know you're going to call that a slippery slope, but it's literally true. Further, I would argue that the federal structure of our system is far from outdated. I would argue that the states are still highly distinct from each other, and the structuring of our country as a union of states still has relevancy. And I think when you ask people in Tennessee how they feel about people in New York, I think you can tell a lot of those divides are still there. Part of that is due to the nature of America and its people. Part of that will always remain true no matter what, simply because of the sheer size of America. But anyways, maybe we can address the whole question of whether or not the states distinction stuff is still relevant if we do a part 2 of this video. Like I said, I don't want to go on too long. I only addressed like half of his video, so there's still a lot to do. So if you want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below, and be sure to leave a like. I'm not going to set a specific like goal. Instead, I'm going to leave you in suspense, okay? All I'm going to say is that if I see a sufficient amount of likes on this video, I'll do part 2. Really going to keep you on your toes with that one, so be sure to leave a like. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed. Hopefully we channeled some of the nostalgia of like owning people and debating in our own high school U.S. history classes. I say as if it wasn't only like 4 years ago that I was in AP US History. Yeah, I'm that young, by the way. You do the math. But anyways, like and subscribe for more. Check out the merch link in the description. And until next time, Alpha Moves only. God bless. Peace.